Okay, so this is a day later than expected. I'm going to do my roundup of the World Tour Finals. I had an absolute disaster getting back from Glasgow yesterday. Was meant to be on a flight at 10 in the morning. That got delayed till early evening. There was flights cancelled left, right and centre. So I ended up having to get a flight to Stansted instead of Gatwick. The only problem with that was my car was at Gatwick, so I had to get from Stansted to Gatwick to pick my car up and then drive home. So yeah, I ended up getting back at about 7 o'clock last night, where I should have been home by midday. But I made it back. I know some people didn't. Some people were stuck in Glasgow last night, so thank God I made it. Anyway, right, let's talk about Glasgow World Tour Finals. First and foremost, it was an absolutely brilliant show. The Scottish crowd were absolutely amazing as always. I absolutely love the arena that they do the World Tour Finals at. I think it's absolutely perfect for strongman in terms of the way it's designed, the way it's laid out. Backstage, the guys have got tons of room for warm-ups. Just everything about it is perfect from our point of view in terms of me working on the shows, and also for the athletes with the warm-up space, the crew with moving equipment around. The staff there are absolutely brilliant as well. So it is definitely, apart from the Royal Albert Hall, but that's for different reasons, just because it's the Royal Albert Hall, it is my favourite venue we go to with Giants Live. And like I said, the Scottish crowd always come out and really make the best for the guys in terms of their support and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely brilliant time in that respect. Right, so the events. I think the events were really good. Love the dumbbell medley. You got a decent split of athletes in terms of people completing it quickly, people are being a bit slower, people not completing it all. I think it was perfect in that respect. I think sometimes if everyone finishes it quickly and it becomes just who got the fastest stopwatch, it's no good. It does need to split the field, and I think that the weights they use were perfect for that. They could almost essentially, I think, maybe scrap the 80 kilo dumbbell. I think the guys are at a point strength wise where they don't necessarily need that now. But still, it was an absolutely brilliant event. Really enjoyed all the performances. We had 4 guys finish it, if I remember correctly. Mitch Hooper. Oh yeah, I've actually got it here. So Mitch Hooper, Roman Grekov, Trey Mitchell and Luke Stoltman all completing it. Now, their times were very close and they were all super impressive. We expected kind of those guys to do well. I think probably Trey would have been the one that perhaps people didn't expect to be as quick as he was. I think most people know he's strong enough to lift everything, but perhaps didn't expect him to be beating Luke Stoltman on that event. But yeah, they all did the business. Hooper and Roman were both absolutely fantastic. Performed on every single dumbbell, didn't mess anything up. I mean, Roman's technique, if you want to learn how to do dumbbell press, funnily enough, he trains with Novikov and he's the same, but if you want to learn how to do dumbbell press, especially as a tall guy, because he's about 6'5" as well, I would watch Roman Grekov because his dumbbell is absolutely perfect, and it was incredible to watch. Super impressive, everything was locked out nicely, everything was perfect. So yeah, I would highly recommend, if you're looking to learn how to do a dumbbell, I would watch him do it. Great performance from him on his first Giants Live as well. So I'm sure that was a nice little, confidence booster, morale booster going in there. First Giants Live event, and he comes second on it. But Mitch Hooper, as expected, really, we knew he was going to be good at all the events. So ended up winning the event. Great performance, and yeah, nothing more I can say about it really. I think Luke Richards did great. He did 4. He didn't get the 5th dumbbell, but he made sure he did 4 quickly, which obviously put him in a good position. So I think sometimes it's a case, I don't think Luke was confident about getting the 5th one, but I think he knew he could get 4. So it was kind of a case of getting through those first 4 mistake-free, but quickly, and then giving himself a chance at the 5th, and that's exactly what he did. But good performance from Luke there as well. But yeah, all in all, fantastic event, really enjoyed it, and it was quite exciting. So event 2 was the Farmers Walk into Super Yoke. So the Farmers were 150 a hand, Super Yoke was 450 kilos. Now, we all knew he was going to win this. Barring a mistake, we knew he was going to win this event. Mitch Hooper, obviously, he's probably the best in the world at Farmers and definitely the best in the world at Yoke at the moment. So putting those 2 events together that he's genuinely probably the best at, he was always going to win that unless he made some horrible mistake, which Mitch genuinely doesn't make mistakes. So we kind of knew that was going to happen. He completed it in 22 seconds, which was unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about 11 seconds for each object, but you've got the turnaround time in there as well. So realistically, it's probably 10 seconds each way. I've got to say that in person, I was stood right by the side when he did the yoke, and what you saw on the screen didn't do it justice as to how fast he was actually moving. When I watched it live, stood right next to it, and then watched it back when I was doing the work on the live stream, I was like, oh, it doesn't look as quick now. In person, watching him actually move along the course was just unbelievable how fast he was moving. It was incredible. I mean, he was literally like running towards the end of the course, and I mean actually running with 450 kilos on his back. It was immense. But great performance there from Evans Nana. We all thought he might do well on that, and obviously he's a new guy, he's young, so we weren't sure if he'd handle the pressure of being one of the favourites on that event, but he went out and delivered. Great performance from him there, and as I sort of predicted in one of my videos, Luke Stoltman did really well there as well. I think a few people were kind of writing him off on that event, and I thought, no, he's actually, his farmer's not the best, Luke's, but he's very good, and his yoke's very good. So he's kind of like, he's up there. He's not the very best on either of them, but he's right up there with the best guys. And obviously in that field, I expected Luke to do well, and he did. Third place for him, Pavlo Cordiaca in fourth place, and Luke Richardson in fifth. So another solid performance from Luke Richardson as well. But yeah, all in all, I think, you know, some great performances. I think from sort of Trey upwards, Trey was down in ninth place. There was, from Trey in ninth to Evans Nana in second, there was only like 10 seconds between them. So it was quite a tight event. Obviously, Mitch was a lot quicker than everyone else. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think it was great performances. They all did really well, and obviously it was a very fast event. It was over very quick. Yeah, at this point, Yakko pulled out. He came into the competition with a chest infection. After the dumbbell, he was backstage and he was really struggling to breathe. So he was obviously hoping it would get better. Flights had already been booked and everything, so he didn't want to let everyone down. So he came up anyway, but he was struggling to breathe backstage. So at this point, it was kind of like he knew he was going to struggle. They were giving him oxygen. He was hoping to come back in for event 3, but he knew he wasn't ready to do event 2 just because he couldn't get his breath back after the dumbbell. So yeah, unfortunate for him, but all the other guys really did well. Was really impressed with everyone, and I think we've got some good young guys coming through as well. Evans Nana, Kane Francis, obviously Luke Richardson's been around a while, but he's still a young guy. Did really well. So yeah, great performances from them all. So next up was the axle deadlift for reps. So they used the big axle. So of the two axles, although there's only 10 kilos difference, I used the globe one with a bit of weight on the end at 350, or these ones that are 360. The big axle wheels is the hardest 360 kilos I've ever done in my life. So for anyone that sort of deadlifts and they're pulling around 360, trust me when I say this is much harder than the regular bar. I mean, just for example, Chris Beetham just recently pulled 400 kilos and he managed 1 rep with this. So you think if he's pulling 400 on a deadlift bar, you'd expect him to get a few reps at 360, but this is a different thing. It is very, very hard. There's no flex, there's no sort of anything. It is just dead weight. It's extremely tough. So anyone to get big reps on this, you've got to be like super, super strong. I think actually my best is around sort of the 6 mark. So that gives you an idea. And obviously, I'm not saying I was the best, but I was a decent deadlifter. I could pull well in excess of 400 kilos pretty much any time I tried. So that gives you an idea how tough it is. On a regular bar, I could do 10 reps at 360, and I think the best I ever did on that was 6. So yeah, that gives you an idea of the difficulty of it. But all the guys went out and did well. Obviously, like I said, Chris Beetham did 1. Roman Grekov got a couple. Pavlo 3, which I don't think that's a terrible performance for him. I actually think that is Pavlo's weakest event. It's one that he's sort of not brought up as much as the others. But I actually think that was the best I've seen him pull on that. I know he's done I think he's definitely done 2. I think he might have done 3 in the past, but all 3 of his reps look good. So he looks like he's making progress. And the same thing with Luke Stoltman. So he got 3 reps as well. They were down in joint 8th, Pavlo and Luke. But I think that that's the best I've seen Luke pull 3 reps on that. And it was really bizarre because his first rep kind of looked so easy and so comfortable. And then the second was still good. Third didn't look that bad. But then went for the 4th and obviously had sort of expended all his energy. So I'd actually go as far to say that, you know, he's not a million miles off getting 4 because all 3 of his first few reps look smooth. But it is kind of one of those things where it's, you know, once it's gone, it's gone. But the fact that his 3 looks so good, I would say he's probably progressing on to soon he'll be able to do 4. So I think we're seeing some good signs with Luke Stoltman, that is, and his deadlift progressing. And again, he's the same as Pavlo. They're both great at all the other events, but just the deadlifts are just off a little bit. But it's not much. And I always say at this level, it's small margins. 1 rep here, 1 rep there, it can make a huge difference. So I think both of those 2 can take some positive from it because I think it's the best I've seen them both pull on those axles, getting 3 reps each. They looked smooth, all the reps they did. So yeah, I think there's some progress there, even if they didn't necessarily do more reps than they have in the past. So next up with 4 reps was Kane Francis and Spencer Remick. You know, I mean, 4 reps on that is very respectable. They are tough. Kane had a really good go at the 5th rep as well. And I think Spencer, he's one of those guys, he's like really, really decent at everything. I don't think he's like a world beater on any event, but he's very good at everything. So I would say, you know, for 4 reps for him on that he's not renowned as a massive deadlifter. So I think, again, he can take some positive from that. Kane, I would say, would probably feel disappointed that he didn't get the 5th because he was very close. And he is a big deadlifter as well. So I think probably he would have been a little bit disappointed with that coming out of it. But obviously, you can only do what you can do. And they had done the farmers and yoke literally straight before it. So that might have obviously knocked that rep off because he was very close to getting the 5th. Just that little bit less energy because he'd expended it on the event before. Maybe his posterior chain was a little bit tired from the farmers and yoke. That does pull you down sometimes a little bit, especially if you're one of those reps that's 50-50. Sometimes doing an event like that beforehand can be the reason you don't get it. So yeah, I mean, I think Kane probably in his own mind would have been disappointed, but I don't think it was a bad performance at all. So then this was where the problems lied next, was Trey, Wes, Luke and Evans all did 5 reps. So great performances from all 5 of those, all 4 of those with the 5 reps. I think Trey, again, he showed in Vegas, he's a massive deadlifter, got 5 reps here, which is good. Wes, same thing, decent, solid deadlifter. His first Giants Live as well. I mean, Wes is another one of those guys, he's like a solid performer. He's a good, strong man. I don't necessarily think shows like this he's going to be winning them, but he's always going to be there or thereabouts. So I think he's a very solid, strong man and a really good operator. So he'd be reasonably happy with 5 reps at this point in the competition. Luke Richardson, I know, will definitely be happy because on like I was talking about the 2 different axles they use. In Birmingham, he did 5 reps on the 350 kilo axle. But it's not just that it's 350, it's easier as well. So he's matched the same number of reps on the hard axle as he did on the easier one. So obviously that shows progress. And none of his reps look that bad either. I think he's still building that confidence after the hamstring tear. Could he have got a 6th? Probably not, but I think he'd have had a good crack at it. So probably in 2 weeks' time, if he had to do that event again, he probably would get 6 reps. So you can definitely see progress from Luke Richardson, which looks good, obviously, for Britain's Strongest Man beginning of next year, in beginning of February. The fact that he sort of made progress from Birmingham to now, he's now got a few weeks to go away and make some more progress till Britain's Strongest Man. So I think Luke will definitely be in the running at Britain's Strongest Man next year. So Evans Nana also getting 5 reps. Now, I didn't expect this much from him. I know he's a decent deadlifter. I know he's strong. And I know he's a very good up-and-coming strongman, but I didn't realise he was that good. I'm not going to lie, I was very impressed. I think he did really well. He managed his energy levels and his time really well. I think it was a really, really good performance. And again, it shows, he's only 26 years old. It shows the rate he's progressing. Every show he looks better and stronger. So he's had like 2 good performances at this point with the farmers and yoke. He comes second, and now on the deadlift he's come joint second. So he's showing he's sort of got some definite potential to hopefully get into those realms of the absolute elite guys at some point in the near future. And obviously winning the event, rounding it out, was Mitch Hooper with 6 reps. Now this was absolutely ridiculous watching him do it, because I watched him do the first 3 reps and then looked at the timer, and he'd basically done the first 3 reps in like 12 seconds. And I was just like, he's literally beaten nearly half the field, or matched or beaten half the field in 12 seconds. So it was just, I mean, so easy, it was ridiculous. He then went on, did the other 3, stopped, was looking over at Evan's Nana to see if he was going to attempt the 6th. And then when he didn't, obviously Mitch just sort of walked away. But he could have done more for sure. He was done within 30 seconds, just standing there waiting to see if he needed to do more. So I think Mitch is in a different realm to everybody else at the moment in terms of his ability. Yeah, he's a very special talent, and I think anyone that is going to be challenging him next year is going to need to have a really solid winter's training to get ready for it, because yeah, he's an exceptional talent and he does work extremely hard. He diets well, you know, in terms of like he eats the right things. It's actually, he's got a good video on his YouTube I was watching the other day, and he explains about, I think it's called How Am I So Dominant in Strongman or something like that. I'd say to any aspiring strongman to check it out, because he sort of explains sort of the way he does things and things like that. And he's almost like following what a few of us oldies have been saying for years. It's just a case of doing the basics very well. There's no like need to do these crazy exercises where it's like, I found a little hack. There's no hacks. It's just hard work and consistency. And the same with your diet, hard work and consistency, making sure you're getting all the right macronutrients, which most guys are pretty good with, but he's also looking at micronutrients to make sure he's getting all the vitamins and minerals and things like that he needs. So he's training well, eating well. He's then looking after his body. He's, you know, he's doing all the basics exceptionally well, and that's what makes him the level that he is. He's a smart guy as well. But I would recommend any aspiring strongmen or women go and watch that video, because he breaks it all down, and it's very interesting to hear that, you know, he's just doing the basics well. He's not doing anything that other guys couldn't be doing. Yes, he's very talented and very gifted, but he also just does the basics well. So if you want to get good at strongman, that's what I recommend you doing. Next up was the Hercules hold. Now, this was the only event kind of at this point we weren't sure if Mitch would win. I mean, I thought maybe he wouldn't win the stones as well. But, you know, this was one that I thought potentially a couple of guys could beat him. And we were wrong. So he went out there and won the Hercules hold as well. So 1 minute 12, very respectable time. Probably could have got a little bit longer. So yeah, a very respectable time to say the least. Trey Mitchell in second. And I was talking Trey a little bit afterwards. He did a minute 9. Yeah, I was talking to Trey a little bit after the Hercules hold. Now, he's come second on the grip event, but he always struggles with the grip on his farmers. And it kind of doesn't make sense, because it's always been like that. He's very good at like grip events, but his farmers walk, he always struggles. And he was telling me he had a bit of nerve damage from an old shoulder injury. So anytime his arms are down, it causes him problems in terms of it sort of rotates inwards and then causes the grip to sort of almost shut off a little bit, which is a shame, because obviously he has got a good grip. He's good at all the other events. I'd say probably his farmer's walk is the only event that he's sort of not on the pace with everything else. So I hope at some point, obviously, he can get that issue remedied, because if it is just a bit of nerve issue, like something's pushing on the nerve or something like that, there is generally something you can do to fix it. So I hope he can get that fixed at some point, and then go on and, because if he can start performing on a farmer's walk event as well, and you know, some of the events like that he's having those problems on, he's then starting to get into a point where he's very good at everything and he can start challenging the likes of sort of Mitch. So I hope he manages to get that sorted at some point, but good solid performance on the Hercules hold. Third place was Luke Richardson. I kind of expected Luke to do well here. I know he has done well in the past on it at Europe's Strongest Man. I think he was third behind, well, Felix won the event, I was second and he was third. And he put in a good time there as well. So I knew he was good at this. So he'd be happy with that. Third place, so good solid performances from Luke Richardson there. Wes Dewinski, I knew he'd be good at this as well. I know he's got an exceptional grip. All the Canadians have got massive grips for some reason. Well, I know the reason. They do a lot of sort of events in Canada where they need to have a good grip. So definitely something that the Canadians love. Things like heavy wheelbarrows, stuff like that. So they do have those sort of heavy grip events. So most of the Canadian guys have extremely strong grip. So yeah, I expected Wes to do well there. Spencer Remick, good solid performance from Spencer again. Like I said, just very consistent, always there or thereabouts, and a good quality strongman. Just yeah, a good all-rounder. Evans Nana was very close in times around this sort of 4th to sort of 7th range. Good solid performances from all the guys really, but not the strongest Hercules hold competition I've ever seen. Now, they did have farmers before, you know, they did have a deadlift on the axle before, so their grip's going to be a little bit fatigued. I know with the axle you're using straps, but with the thick axle bar on the deadlift, it does still fatigue your grip a bit. It is tough. It just sort of, you know, just takes that little bit of the edge off. So the fact that these numbers are slightly down than we've seen in some other competitions, I don't think is a total shock. So yeah, anyway, it was a good performance. I got to have a go on the Hercules hold backstage as well, which I haven't done for a long time. I won't tell you what I did or what happened, but put it this way, when I do eventually do a Hercules hold, I'm pretty confident I can get a good time, and I'll leave it at that. So I didn't push it to failure, but I had a pretty solid time and it was good fun doing it as well. Great performances from all the guys. A little bit disappointing for Luke. Obviously, Stoltman that is, 44 seconds. He would have hoped for more than that, I'm sure. But he has performed pretty well on the other events. And obviously, his time wasn't that terrible. It's just a lot of them were very close together. So, unfortunately, he didn't get those extra few seconds, but is what it is. So, at that point, Mitch Hooper was so far ahead, he didn't even need to do the last event. So he had a 13.5 point lead, I believe, if I remember correctly, going into the stones. And obviously, you only get 11 point swing from last to first on the event. So no matter what anyone done, they'd have still been behind. So he didn't need to do the stones. As we kind of half expected, how Mitch has been at the back end of this year. He's basically been winning shows by only doing 4 of the 5 events. So yeah, unfortunately, this time no one was able to challenge him. Although I find it a little bit frustrating to watch because he's like so much better than anyone. It's almost, it could get a little bit boring. I sort of sat back and just watched Mitch compete and was like, I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy's incredible. As an athlete, you know, he's got it all. He's fast, he's strong, he's athletic, he's explosive, he's got a great grip. You know, there's no weakness whatsoever. His recovery's amazing between events. And I think it's going to be tough for anyone to beat him next year, if I'm totally honest. I mean, there's a couple of guys that are capable of it. I would say like a fully fit Tom could beat Mitch. Evan potentially. But I think Evan would have a harder time because the events that Evan's good at, Mitch is also very good at and probably slightly better. But, you know, things can happen. So Evan could be in that mix. And I actually think we're starting to see that Luke Richardson could be end up being one of those guys as well. Now, maybe not next year, but at some point soon, because he's well-rounded enough where he's not going to drop too many points. He just needs to keep progressing the way he is and just get that little bit better across the board. Now, I've always thought that Luke one day could win World's Strongest Man. I still believe that now. I know he's had a terrible run with injuries, but he's starting to show that he's still got that there. He's gone through hell getting back from injuries, and he still wants it. So I still believe Luke Richardson could be one of those guys that really goes on and challenges for World's Strongest Man titles. And I don't know that it will happen next year, but he's still a young guy. The year after, I would say, if Luke Richardson stays fully fit, he will be challenging for the top spots at World's Strongest Man in 2026. So great to see Luke performing well across the board. Anyway, so that's enough about the sort of a few of the guys, you know, me talking about who could beat Mitch potentially. At the end of the day, he's the best in the world at the minute. Yes, Tom's injured, so that obviously is taken into the equation. But right now, as we speak, everyone, as they are right now, Mitch is the best in the world, and I don't think anyone can argue with that. Going into the stones, obviously there was a lot that could happen. The points were quite tight, and it was about some of the guys going out there and delivering good performances to try and move up a few spots. And then there was a good battle between Luke Richardson and Trey Mitchell. There was only 1 point between them, so it was almost like a straight shootout. Whoever wins the stones wins out the two of them, because obviously Trey was behind by a point, so if he beats Luke on the stones, he gets that point, and if they're tied on points because he won the stones, he beats Luke overall. So the battle really was for second, third, fourth, those places. Now, Luke Stoltman, I believe going into that, was down in about 7th place, going into the stones, but the points were very tight, and sort of he knew, I'm sure, but we all sort of saw if he puts in a good performance, he could move up. So Luke went out, delivered a mental performance, blasted through the stones. Luke Stoltman won the stones with 24 seconds, which on that heavy set is a very, very respectable time, especially after doing the events that they've done prior as well. Great performance from Luke Stoltman there. So kind of as expected, Kane put in a good performance here. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm being mean, because I really like Kane. He's a great guy, and I actually think he's got a lot of potential. He's not been doing strongman that long. I think he could be really, really exceptional in a year or so's time. He's good now, but he could be like one of those real elite guys, in my opinion. But I would say probably he would be a little bit disappointed with Saturday night. I think he could have performed slightly better. Now, it wasn't like he was terrible. It was just he was very close on a lot of events. And he had events where he performed pretty well, but he narrowly lost out or this, or narrowly was slightly slower than someone else, and things like that. A lot of that happened to Kane. So it wasn't a terrible performance, but I do believe he can do better. So I look forward to a big performance from Kane in February at Britain's Strongest Man. I think he's proving that he's got all the tools to do really well. So hopefully he can deliver a great performance then. But like I said, he wasn't bad, but I just know he's capable of more. So Kane, if you're watching this, please don't get offended. I just want the best for you, and I know you can do well. So in third place on the stones, Trey Mitchell. Good performance from Trey. Solid as always. He is a very, very good stone lifter, is Trey. And I actually think that Trey, if the stones were heavier, he would still be quick. He's kind of one of those guys, he's got one speed that's like very fast. He's not like blisteringly fast like Tom can be, but Trey is very fast. But even if you make all those stones heavier, he moves at the same speed because he's so strong. It kind of doesn't slow him down that much. So Trey's a great stone lifter, did really well. Just narrowly beating Luke Richardson. They were head to head. It was a great moment as well, watching them go at it. And obviously because Trey beat Luke, like I spoke about a minute ago, he then gained that point, which then left them tied on points, and he took second place and pushed Luke Richardson down to third overall. Now, because of all this, Luke Stoltman obviously winning the event, putting in a great performance, ended up in fourth place. And I think for Luke, was a good performance. I think there's signs there that he's making improvements on some of the events that he's perhaps struggled on, like the deadlift. And obviously he's had the bicep injury, and it's sort of showing that he's getting back fully fit from that. So again, another person that could really be challenging at Britain's Strongest Man come beginning of February. I think Luke's, a legit top 10 in the world guy. He's proved that multiple years in a row at World's Strongest Man. He's he's always there or thereabouts. Won Europe's Strongest Man a couple of times, so we know Luke can deliver big performances. And I said, actually, I think obviously where he's coming back from injury, he's probably not at his best at the moment. But the thing with Luke Stoltman is, I mean, whenever he's backed into a corner and people like write him off and people think that he's past his best and everything, that's almost when he takes things up a notch and we see the best of Luke. A few people was kind of writing him off perhaps before this show, and I was smart enough to know that that wasn't the case. I'd just like to say my prediction was Mitch winning, Trey second, Luke Stoltman third, and I had Luke Richardson in fourth. So I didn't do bad. I only got the two Lukes round the wrong way. But overall, great performances from everyone. I think everyone turned up and delivered. Everyone sort of put on a show. The crowd were absolutely brilliant for all the guys. And yeah, I have nothing negative to say about this show. I think it was absolutely brilliant. There's nothing that could have been done better. Moving forwards, Glasgow could end up being a really, really, really big show as the World Tour Finals. I think there's room to put more seats because some of the seats get pulled out and things like that. I think there's room to make that stadium even bigger, I believe, with more seating in the space that we had. So I think it could end up being like a real big event moving forwards where we have like 10,000 plus now. I could see that happening because obviously the Scottish crowd love it. There's a very big history for strength stuff in Scotland, obviously with the Highland Games. And a lot of strongman events come from sort of traditional Scottish things. So I think it could end up being a real big show in the future. Not that it's not a big show already, but I think it could be like absolutely massive, especially as it's a World Tour Finals. But anyway, that's the season pretty much done. In terms of Giants Live. Look forward to next year. Obviously, Britain's Strongest Man being the first one, and then moving on to Europe's Strongest Man. So we've got a couple of big titles beginning of the year. And I think this year has been fantastic. Obviously, they took the step to go to Vegas and are looking to grow on that for next year. Just learning from the first one. Obviously, people now understanding sort of what Giants Live's about over in the States, and hopefully that's going to grow into something even bigger as well. We've got Royal Albert Hall, all these events as per usual, and I can't wait to be a part of all of them again next year. I think Giants Live are really setting the standard when it comes to these entertaining one-day shows. It's fast-paced, although the athletes sometimes struggle with that. It's very fast-paced, it's energetic. They do a great job with the entrances and things like that. Do a good job of sort of showing the athletes in the best light as well. So I look forward to an even better 2025, and I thoroughly enjoyed the year. But I hope you enjoyed the World Tour Finals. And if you didn't watch it live and you want to watch it, it is still available on Official Strongman along with all the other shows. They're all still on there that you can go back and watch them all. So I would highly recommend. Obviously, if you're a strongman fan and you want to go watch some strongman competitions, sign up to Official Strongman and go and watch them all. Now, my next job is I am commentating Britain's Strongest Masters at FitX beginning of November. I believe it's November the 3rd. So that will be my next role on Official Strongman, and I'm really looking forward to that. I get to see my good friend Mark Felix, who didn't actually talk about, attempted the Hercules hold world record, missed out by 1 second, which I'm sure he was disappointed about, but I'm sure he'll be back to beat it again in the future. Who knows, maybe one of the events next year, I'll jump in and challenge him to see if I can try and get close, but that's a whole nother story anyway. But yeah, I get to commentate on Mark at Britain's Strongest Masters, along with all the other athletes. Thoroughly looking forward to that, and then that's pretty much me done for the year in terms of strongman. So I get to focus on my goals and my lifting and keep chasing down that £1,000 deadlift for next year. So I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Any questions, as always, pop them in the comments. And now you'll start to probably see more of my life and less of the sort of being away at competitions moving forward on this channel until early next year. So I'll take you on the journey of where I'm at with the deadlifting and the training and stuff like that, and hopefully you can enjoy it and come along for the ride.